This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media, sponsors of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium in Boca Raton, Florida. I'm delighted to welcome a friend of longstanding, Mr. Simon Ridgway, somebody who I've been a friend with and invested with for 2 decades. Simon, delighted that you've subjected yourself to this interview. Delighted, too, that you'll be a sponsor of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. Welcome.
I appreciate the interview to both, Rick. I appreciate having the chance to get to Boca Raton and be there again. It was a fantastic conference last year.
Before we go forward, I should acknowledge that I have conflicts of interest here. I'm a large shareholder of Radius Resources, one of your issues of longstanding, and have been a beneficiary there. Tell us something about the background of the Gold Group, what it is they've done in the past, what their successes have been, and why we should care about what Gold Group is doing now.
Well, I think we've been very lucky to find quite a number of deposits over the last 20 years, mostly in Central and North America, and some in Latin America. We, I went down to Venezuela back in the early 1993, 94 times when Robert Friedland created quite a gold rush down there. And, flying back from Venezuela to Vancouver every quarter, I'd fly over to Central America and look at all those volcanoes and all that geology down there and got quite excited to go and explore there. So in about 1994, I did that. And, over the last 25 years, I've had quite a number of successes finding, gold deposits such as the Mar West hot spring deposit in Honduras, the Cerro Blanco deposit in Guatemala, the San Jose deposit in Mexico. I've had great geologists working with me and still do. And based upon that, we've had a lot of success and continue to.
I'm delighted to say I've participated in several of those successes. So thank you for that. Tell us something about the constituents of the Gold Group today. What are the offerings? What are the listed offerings that you'll be talking about in Boca Raton?
Okay, we've actually got 3 companies in the Gold Group. The Radius Gold, which is a long-standing company that's had, we just financed Radius a couple of weeks ago for the first time in 12 years. We've been able to keep the company afloat without financing, without diluting shareholders for that long by making discoveries and joint ventures and selling interest in those discoveries to keep the company financed. Then there's Volcanic Gold, which actually joint ventured properties from Radius. Radius had a large land position in Guatemala. Guatemala became kind of unworkable for several years, so Radius held on to the land position. And then when the politics changed in the country, Volcanic joint ventured those prospects from Radius. And we've had quite a lot of success drilling there, making another discovery called the Holly property, which we're slowly developing. It's about 40 kilometers from one of my previous discoveries, the Cerro Blanco gold deposit, which is over 3 million ounces, which is being developed by the Lundin Group. And we're just north of there a little ways. So I think that's a good discovery. And the third company is Rackler, which is active in the Yukon territory. That's where I cut my teeth in exploration, was in the Yukon back in the late 80s, early 90s. And recently, a great discovery there, Snowline, was in some rocks that I know well that extend into the Northwest Territory. So I used Rackler as a shell in my office, and we financed that to go back to the Yukon and explore there, where I've had some previous successes and know the rocks well. But basically, the focus has been getting great geos working for me.
And perhaps you could talk a bit about some of the individual superstars who do work for you, the people who are in the ground.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, Bruce Smith, who's working for me. He's president, CEO of Radius Gold, and actually, Bruce has made quite a number of good discoveries in Mexico. One joint venture to Fresnillo, one we got joint venture to Pan American. But actually, I just returned 2 days ago from looking at a new project that Bruce has found called the Tropico, and I'm very excited by it. It is very similar to the Cerro Blanco, which I mentioned a few minutes ago. It was a hot spring deposit. This is a hot spring breccia, never been drilled, got very good gold, arsenic, mercury numbers on surface. I'm very confident, given the geochemistry and the geophysics, that we're going to have some good success drilling there over the next few months. I'm excited by that project. In Guatemala, running and looking over the geology of volcanic. I've said first and foremost is Rodrigo Matias. Rodrigo has found several deposits for me in Central America over the years. He was initially involved in the Cerro Blanco discovery and the San Martin discovery. Another one, the Tambo discovery that we made, which is about a 500,000 ounce deposit. He was involved in that. So he's the main project geo that's working in Guatemala. But running the company, the VPX, is Luke English, he came from Nicaragua. He made a good discovery in Nicaragua for a different company. He began working for me and running volcanics exploration in Guatemala about 6 months ago. And in the Yukon, we have Scott. Scott was the VPX of Scott Castleman was the VPX of the Geological Survey of the Yukon for about 7 years before joining me to take on this intrusive hosted exploration project in the Yukon and Northwest Territories. He joined me about 6 months ago, left the Yukon Survey, and with all that knowledge and experience of working in the Yukon, he's a great addition to the team.
Simon, one of the things that's always been the hallmark of your companies has been the fact that you have always viewed your progress in terms of the increase in net asset value per share, which is to say you have not been a serial diluter, but rather you have operated your companies in terms of G&A on a shoestring. And the fact that you haven't had to finance Radius until very recently for 12 years speaks a lot to that. Could you talk something about the infinitesimal market capitalizations that we're talking about here? I mean, they really, truly, rather, relative to the collection of assets and the amount of money that you've been able to spend on exploration for 20 years, these things are ridiculously small market caps.
Yeah, they're presently, but I think like a lot of exploration companies presently, we're very, very cheap for what we have. And Radius has got about 100 million shares out, trading at 17 cents, so about a $70 million market cap. We have a discovery with Pan American Silver that Pan American is earning into 65% of. They've drilled up to date, roughly in about closing on 1 million ounces, but it is a fantastic exploration project in Mexico. We have a joint venture there also with Fresnillo, who's going to start drilling in the next few months. And this new project I just mentioned, that Bruce's new find, which I think will be Bruce's new discovery, the Tropico target. Volcanic, on the other hand, Volcanic's got 40 million shares out. It's got a market cap of under 10 million and cash in the bank of about 4.5 million. A discovery that's 400,000 ounces, averaging about 9 grams. It's located about 40 kilometers north of a mine that is going to get built in the next few years. There's lots of room for that to grow. So that's got a market cap, as I said, under 10 million and 4.5 million cash. And Rackler, which is a company just I've raised funds for to explore this belt in the Yukon. It's a very exciting exploration play, Rackler. It's got a 50 million shares out and a market cap, again, of about 12 million, but with about 4 million in the treasury. So all the companies are financed to get through this summer and the drill programs I have planned. And hopefully we'll see a strong gold market and we'll have some good success with the drilling we're going to be doing.
Well, Simon, you, like me, have been around the game for a very long time. It's important for the viewers of this interview to note that if you are stingy with the shares and you begin the program with a low market capitalization, the transition from bear market to bull market is astonishing. Twice before, during my shareholdings, my period of shareholdings with Radius, there's been a tenfold increase in share prices from the trough of the market bottom to the peak of the market trough. Perhaps you could talk something about the cyclicality in resources and how you use bear markets to buy assets and you use bull markets to monetize assets, because you've been a master at it for 3 decades.
Yes, I've been very successful. A little luck with timing, but I think you make your own luck by making judgment calls on when is the right time to acquire ground and the right time to finance the companies. And I always take large portions of the financings myself. So obviously I want to finance at the right time and keep my position. Usually I try to hold around 19% of the companies that I'm involved with. So I have a vested interest with all of the shareholders of making that company successful and getting those 10 baggers.
Simon, finally, it's important for the attendees to this conference to prepare before the conference. Two questions. How do investors best prepare themselves? What are the web addresses? And more importantly, who will curate their experience? If an investor has questions, who do they direct those questions to? And what are the contact details for those people who can curate the experience of my investors?
Well, I'm always available to be contacted at sridgwaygoldgroup.com or my own phone number 604-375-8119. But talking to the geologists like Bruce Smith, who can be contacted through Radius Gold's website, is obviously you get more technical information than I can give, and they can talk better about the projects themselves. But radiusgold.com is a good place to go to look at Radius, and Radius is on that website is also all the holdings that Radius has in the joint venture with Volcanic Gold. So that is a Radius Gold's website is a great place to go. Radius also has holdings in Rackler, because Rackler was a spin out from Radius way back when. So on that website radiusgold.com, you can find about all the three companies and the history of the geos that are working with me. And my history of discoveries.
I want the viewers to this video to understand that first answer. Many people say the CEO is too busy to talk to me. If the CEO is too busy to talk to you, that means that the CEO doesn't value his partner shareholders. Simon gave the right answer. You start by talking to Simon Ridgway, who is the driving force. That is absolutely the right answer, Simon. I'm looking forward to hosting you at Boca Raton. I'm looking forward to watching your personal interaction with the investors who we will assemble there. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on this interview. And thank you too for your ongoing support of our natural resources investment symposiums.
And thank you for running these conferences, Rick. They're always excellent. Look forward to seeing you down there.